Hello, boys and girls. It's 2025, so it's time for the annual review of your favorite video game, Genshin Impact. I've made hundreds of videos on this game, but have never properly given it a review, so I think it's finally time for me to fulfill my destiny. Genshin Impact in a few aspects are good. The seamless open world, going from one side of the map to the other without hitting any loading screens, the environment, colorful and vibrant, the animations are smooth, but just like a cute girl obsessed with astrology, the positives are big, but the problems are even bigger. I'm not even going to go into the monetization and how the game uses every psychological trick in the book to get you to pull out your credit card, predatory monetizations or whatever, because as a wise woman once said,
like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
But honestly, it's 2025, and I feel like if you're beyond the age of 10, you'd understand that the entire purpose of a gacha game is to siphon the life savings out of you. Hoyoverse isn't trying to save the world, they are trying to rob the world. Strategically. But we're not here to talk about how Hoyoverse is ruining people's lives. We're here to talk about the 200 resin limit in the game. Everything progression-wise in the game costs resin. Need materials from bosses? Resin. Need materials to level your character? Resin. Need materials to level your weapon? Resin. Need gear? Resin. Need to collect rewards from events? Resin. Just kidding, they only did that once. So realistically, to accomplish any vertical progression on your accounts, you need resin. And spending the 200 resin that you spent an entire day saving because it regenerates at an ungodly rate of 1 every 8 minutes takes about 10 minutes. After that, collect rocks and pick flowers, and that's about it. Which, by the way, also has a respawn time of 8 hours or more. But at the end, that doesn't even matter because even though monster materials are a part of your character and weapon progression, you are still ultimately gated by materials that require resin. Genshin was my first gacha game, so I wasn't familiar with the gacha game mechanics, but apparently stamina is a normal thing to have in a gacha game. But just because it's normal doesn't mean it's good. For example, if your friend is poor and they host a party, you know it's going to be a shit party because they don't have the money to afford anything, but you go to it anyways, and the only thing they have there is a half-eaten bag of chips and expired guacamole. You'll be like, yeah, that's expected, but it's still a shit party regardless. Like many other good games, Genshin has a housing system. You can build your own home, but it might as well not exist because other than getting the weekly 60 extra resin from this stupid penguin, none of its billions of furniture serve any gameplay purpose. Everything is cosmetic. It's like Minecraft, but you can only craft your crafting stations. You can't actually craft with your crafting stations. But let's just say you like to build things and it doesn't matter to you that what you build doesn't have any effect on your gameplay. There is a limit to how much furniture you can put down. The worst part about this is that I would be fine with all of this if my home was an instance in a teapot in an open world single player RPG. But itspaikon, Genshin isn't single player, co-op exists. Yeah, barely. In the 4 years that Genshin Impact has existed, you still can't quest together in co-op. Doing domains are arguably sometimes harder than doing it by yourself in co-op. You can't even talk to NPCs while you're in co-op. And as of right now, joining co-op can potentially ruin one of your achievements because of a dumbass running around with the sole purpose of just being an ass. Until proven wrong, I'm pretty sure that co-op exists just to show off characters to other people, so they might pull for the character after seeing it in action. And you know who I blame for all of this? Mobile players. That's right. What do you mean your phone can't handle an extra building in the open world? The artifact limit is probably your fault as well. But in all honesty, mobile gacha games make like 1 billion times more money than normal games. If Genshin Impact didn't exist and I had the chance to make Genshin Impact, I would do it too. Who am I to blame Hoyoverse for wanting to make $1 billion a month? People play Genshin Impact for a lot of different reasons. Some play for the characters, some play for the gameplay, some play for the exploration, some play for the story. Okay, never mind. Apparently you can only play Genshin Impact for the story and nothing else, and if you don't, you're not doing it right and should go fuck yourself. Let me ask a perfectly legitimate question. If I strictly want a good story, I'd read a book, watch a show or a movie, or watch itspaikon on twitch.tv/itspaikon. Who's going, I'm craving a good story right now. Let me log into Genshin Impact. I don't think Genshin Impact has a bad story, but at the same time, I don't think it's that good. But it's not really the story I have a lot of issues with. It's the way they tell it. A single quest in Genshin Impact lasts 3 hours. 3 hours. Well, it's 3 hours of fun, right, itspaikon? Absolutely not. 90% of the quest is have a conversation for 10 minutes, move to a different location, then have another conversation for 10 minutes. Rinse and repeat. And by the way, why are the conversations so long? The entirety of Tears of the Kingdom can be speedran in 3 Genshin Impact conversations. Also, nothing happens on the screen except for the camera switching angles and the character standing still in a circle rotating between 3 poses. At that point, it's just an audiobook because there's literally nothing happening on the screen. screen. At least there's an autoplay button. I can press autoplay, go to sleep, and when I wake up, the quest will be done. is what I like to say, but the game likes to present these things called dialogue options to you, which is pretty normal in games. What happens is you're supposed to pick one of them, and it's supposed to dictate the different outcomes of a conversation because that's what it does in other games. Makes sense, right? For example, you pick this one and the NPC says this, but if you pick the other one, the NPC says the same exact fucking thing. I genuinely don't understand the purpose of dialogue options in Genshin Impact. It's not like the story quests have different endings depending on what you choose or affects your world gameplay wise. Majority of the time, the options themselves doesn't even make sense. Like, what does this even mean? What's worse is when you're doing side quests, the characters are not even voiced. So now it's an audio book without the audio, so it's just a book. You might be like, itspaikon, you can skip the story. Just left click and you'll skip the talking. Are you stupid? I mean, I would, but it doesn't even work. You can spam left click until you get carpal tunnel, but most of the time, the dialogue will still be unskippable for the first 2 to 3 seconds, and sometimes it doesn't even work, and the character actually finishes their dialogue. There are currently 2 endgame activities for players that have reached that point. Spiral Abyss or Spiral Abyss, but in a brighter room, also known as Imaginarium Theater. I don't have a lot of issues with these, but I have to ask, why is the endgame activities of an open world RPG just killing monsters in a room? The first one I get because it's the first endgame activity that got released, but then you decide to release basically the same exact thing 3 years later. With the annual revenue of billions of dollars, you seriously cannot find a single person that is able to design an endgame activity that involves this massive open world. So with all of that being said, Genshin Impact is actually a good game. Depending on how you see it. Because like most mature functioning adults, I don't believe the world revolves around me and my opinions are just that, opinions, not facts. My perspective of the game after playing for thousands of hours are vastly different from someone that just started or have not played the game yet. At this point, the game has enough story updates to allow players to solely focus on the story for at least 100 hours. If you are playing the game just to do story quests, most of the things I've said wouldn't even apply to you. The gacha aspect of the game is really only an issue if you actually want to collect characters. Resin becomes an issue only if you are trying to actually build your characters in teams or if your goal is to beat Spiral Abyss. House building is only an issue if you are actually trying to build intricate buildings. None of them actually stops you from doing any of the main story quests. I think if Genshin Impact was a buy once to play kind of game, I honestly wouldn't have issues with it because I don't expect the game to change due to updates. But it's not. It's a live service game, and that's my biggest gripe. The updates, with a couple of exceptions, are arguably terrible from a gameplay point of view because nothing meaningful gets added. This might piss off a lot of Genshin Impact's fans, but I think the existence of this video already pissed them off, so I'll say it anyways. I think every Genshin Impact update is exactly the same, with a couple of exceptions like the ones that add actual new features to the game, like the Serena Teapot, TCG, and Imaginary Theater. So I genuinely don't understand how someone can think 99% of the updates are amazing when every single patch is exactly the same. Like, who would actually... Oh, to me, it's more like the release of a new episode of an anime than an actual game update, because the only big change is the addition of a new story. I'm not saying that the updates suck, but I don't think they deserve to be praised to the point where it's just not true anymore. I get that people in this community like being positive, but I feel like it's so positive that even when they get mad, it's like...
Fuck you! I hope your whole family has a nice Christmas!
That's why I'm here to balance things out. Okay, itspaikon, why do you think the updates suck? Alright, Timmy, sit tight because I'm about to crash out.
What the actual fuck are you doing? You're so fucking bad! Oh my fucking god! I just broke my glasses.
The main focus of the updates are the new main story quests, and you already know how I feel about that. Like, honestly, am I playing a visual novel or an open world RPG? New quests are essentially 4-hour-long dialogue. I don't think it's unfair for me to ask for something to, you know, play. New events 90% of the time doesn't have anything to do with the core gameplay. I know Genshin is supposed to be a casual game, but that doesn't mean I want to play Candy Crush in an open world RPG. New banners I don't think should even be considered as new content because it doesn't actually change the way the game plays or add anything new to the existing gameplay loop. New map expansions basically just expands the border of the map, and the most meaningful thing you can do in a new area is just to see what it looks like. Because the only thing you can do in a new area other than sightseeing is is collecting chests, which would have been fine had the chests actually contained things like legendary weapons, game-changing items, or my hopes and dreams. But you already know what you are going to find in chests. 0 to 10 primo gems depending on the type of chest. There is no difference between a chest you find in a new area and a chest you find in the very beginning of the game. I think a single Path of Exile expansion like the Settlers of Calgar has added more changes to the game when compared to the 4 years of Genshin Impact's updates. This video has been really negative so far, but there is one positive aspect of this game that has kept me going for the past 4 years: the community. In a way, they have provided me with more entertainment than the actual game. But just like a lot of gaming communities, some of the members are kind of delusional. I think calling Genshin a terrible game or quote-unquote dog shit isn't exactly an accurate statement, but I think saying it's the best in anything is not accurate either. That's like saying Solo Leveling is the best anime in the world. But if I were to continue this conversation, I'm going to have to fight a different community. We're in the year 2025 and people act like games like Elden Ring, Witcher 3, Sekiro, Baldur's Gate 3, Terraria, Minecraft does not exist. While not being the best games in general, each excels in their own aspects such as storytelling, combats, or replayability. Within its own niche of mobile gacha games, I do agree that Genshin is leagues above some of its intended competitors, but I genuinely don't think Genshin Impact can objectively compete with many other video games when you are considering every platform. I feel like there's only two types of reactions when you talk to people about Genshin Impact. It's either
this is the greatest game of all time. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Or
I'm so sick of this fucking company. They're trash! Fix the game! It sucks playing the shit! And I'm fucking addicted! So I can't quit!
there is very little in between. It's either all pros or all cons to people. But you know what? The world is not all black or all white, but shades of gray. I think I saw a movie about it. What deserves to be praised should be praised. What does not deserve to be praised deserves to be called out. But when I tell that to people, I just get called a hoyo shill, so I usually just stay silent. I find it really fascinating that some people are kind of obsessed with the sales of a banner, which by the way is not public information, so no one really knows the real numbers. But people are obsessed regardless and would let other people know that certain characters has really low banner sales. But what fascinates me even more is the explanations people come up with to cope with the fact that video games lose players over time. Like this one. Eula and Klee's banner now has the lowest sales. I personally think that's because given the age of the game, there will be a natural decrease in players over time, whether it's due to burnouts or the players have just reached the point where they are ready to move on from the game. Okay, I stand corrected. Apparently, this makes sense because people are saving for characters in Fontaine because it's a hop, skip, and jump away. Linny is the new and upcoming character. Everyone is excited for him. Every player is skipping this banner to save for his. Obviously, Linny is the best right now. Why didn't Linny sell? Well, in my honest opinion, I think the game has slowly been losing players because every game has its peak and decline. You can't expect the game to have the same amount of players as its peak over time. That's just how it works. Okay, well, actually, if you haven't noticed, people aren't saving for Fontaine as a whole. They have their targets set on certain characters like Farina, Neuvillette, and Arlenchino. Obviously, Neuvillette is the best right now. Why are banner sales so low? Listen, Genshin may not have the best gameplay, story, exploration, mechanics, progression, endgame, build diversity, meaningful rewards, updates, events, but it does have scammers, hackers, drama, social anxiety, a subreddit that has more fan arts and cosplay than actual game discussions, unhinged voice actors, the same fucking joke for the past 4 years, and of course, me, the best Genshin Impact content creator that provides the best Genshin Impact gameplay on twitch.tv/itspaikon. Different from everyone else. If you like Mint, boy do I have the content for you. Everyone is welcomed except for Solo Leveling fans.